Hi friends, I'm Les Mood, your host. Welcome to the Destination of Renovation, brought to you by the City of Bakersfield and GreenTech Network. Today we're in beautiful San Diego at Intersolar USA, or Intersolar North America, Energy Storage North America, and we have a special guest. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks, great to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. So could you share with the audience a little bit about yourself, or maybe something your associates or the world doesn't know about you?
Yeah, well, I'm from Minnesota, and my journey in solar started actually 40 years ago. So I had a science fair project where I took a little cell and made it spin a fan. So that was my first intro to solar. I thought it was pretty amazing that such a phenomena could exist, and it's kind of surreal that 40 years later we get to work on projects that are big enough to power cities.
Yeah, that's really neat. My daughters are doing little science projects lately, and so that's really promising. It's good to know that you can learn and have an impact on your career later in life. It's really neat. So where do you feel that is part of where your journey began, or where would you think the journey began?
Yeah. I mean, I was always kind of a science nerd, so building radios, radio kits, and electronic devices, and computer programming, and so as a kid, I always loved technology and wanted to have a career in technology. And so after I graduated school, started in the software business. So I worked on early internet software in the 90s and some AI and stuff like that. So that was sort of started my career in digital. Came out to California, got my MBA, and then switched from the digital to physical. So I started a semiconductor company doing little computer chips to focus lasers. And it turns out there's a lot of similarities between that type of optoelectronic and a solar cell. And so 20 years ago, when I was getting married and needed a job, I found a posting for SunPower and was fortunate enough to join them when they were just 40 people. So.
Yeah, and you said 15 years you were there, right?
I was 15 years at SunPower.
That's amazing. That's great. What a great company. A lot of learning and a lot of things you've done. What are you doing these days to make the world a better place?
Yeah, about 5 years ago, our group at SunPower, which was focused on utility scale solar technology, we spun out and formed Terabase. And we had gone through this journey of solar scaling up from 10 megawatt power plants to 20, 50, 100, 500, 800. Actually, we did a biggest one in the U.S. near Bakersfield.
Yeah.
So the Solar Star project. Yeah. So we saw this journey, but as we spun out and started the company, we said, okay, this has been great. Industry's come a long way. The cost of electricity has come a long way. However, the future requires a massive build out of utility scale solar. So the numbers that we use are 75 terawatts needs to be built. And then if you look at climate change and you say, okay, this much energy will come from wind, this much energy will come from hydro, geothermal, fission. Solar has got to do a lot of the heavy lifting, and to do that you need solar power plants. And our theory, which I think is bearing out, is that although the panels that go into solar power plants have become amazing, very cheap and extremely high performing, everything else has not gotten more efficient. And so for the industry to build 75 terawatts, you needed new tools in the form of digital and robotics to help facilitate a cost-effective and rapid deployment of terawatt scale baseload energy. That's why we named it.
Yeah, Terabase, very awesome. So in your journey, you've probably seen a lot, obviously, and there's been struggles and a lot of growth in the industry. Could you share some struggles and maybe triumphs that you've been a part of or witnessed?
Yeah, I mean, it's the proverbial solar coaster, right? And in the early days, there was a conception that solar should only be on rooftop, and people didn't believe in the economics of solar power plants. And but as the cost came down, it became clearer that these could be cost effective. But there was still a lot of evangelizing, right? We would go to an electric utility, and they thought it was a joke. You wouldn't build a solar power plant. And so we did a lot of educational work on the new economics of big scale solar. And so that was really challenging, but once we started building the projects as an industry, then everybody's eyes opened up, and now it's really compelling. And as we spun out and started Terabase, other challenges And every solar project, I would say, is an adventure. I mean, this is big infrastructure, right? And so the project that's pictured here, which is an 800 megawatt in Qatar, was our first project as a company. So we had just named the company the week before, and I was kind of scared, like starting a company seems risky, right? And we were fortunate to win an award to design and engineer an 800 megawatt project in Qatar. And then the pandemic happened. So we worked with a consortium of Chinese, Japanese, Germans, French, Qataris to virtually design and build this project from when you couldn't travel during the pandemic. And there was a race to get it done for the World Cup. And the project was, so that was an example of it, about as challenging as you can get, and the project was finished in time for the World Cup.
Wow, it's really amazing that the digital side of the work you do enabled that to be done with folks from across the world, and that you jumped into such a large project right out of the gates. So that's really neat. Would you have some advice you'd like to share with the industry or professionals in the industry?
Insights for the industry. Well, I mean, I think, I am passionate about solar and for the industry, and I think as an industry, we need to keep, there's a lot of scrutiny on solar, and it's going to get more and more and more, right? Like fossil fuel interests are going to increase the level of propaganda and fighting and this and that. And communities are rebelling, oh, we don't want these big solar projects and stuff. So I think as an industry, we really have to be conscious of the fact that we're under the microscope, and we need to engineer and build projects using best practices. So let's not grade the land, let's figure out how to integrate agriculture or pollinators, or, because a lot, some people in the business are just in it for the money and they want to get in, get out. And then if the project starts on fire, that's somebody else's problem. So I think as an industry, we have to always drive high quality, environmental consciousness, best practices, so that we sort of practice what we preach. And that's really important as we get into these political debates and whatnot that are only going to increase.
Yeah, absolutely great advice. And yeah, being involved and engaged and bringing people together and being conscious of that. Yeah, totally agree. So this next part of the conversation is more of a thought experiment. Okay. There's obviously some roadblocks to some hurdles that are in the industry and things that we need to get past, but this is more about the possibilities. Are you ready?
Okay, sure.
So the first question is, what is some low-hanging fruit that professionals of the world could bite into to make the world a better place?
Yeah, no, there's, there's a lot of little things that in the totality can make a difference. So I'll give you an example. Right now, when solar projects are built, it's shipped with lots of packing material. So you might have 10,000 containers worth of modules in cardboard boxes and wooden crates, and often that is either sent to a landfill or burned, and not consistent with. And so we can do recycling we can recycle the packaging. We actually just finished a project where we worked with a module supplier to recycle 1,000 packs. And so that's not going to change the world by itself, but when you do that on 100 different areas, collectively that can make a difference, right? Reduce, waste and trash and earthwork, and all these little things add up. Sometimes people in solar, they're looking for a magical breakthrough, like, oh, the perovskite's going to save the world. And to me, that's nonsense. We need 1,000 things that are a little bit better, and then that's how we keep driving improvements. And because solar is amazing, and if we can cut the cost another 50%, which I think is possible, that just changes the world.
Yeah, great advice. As we try to lower our footprint on energy, we want to keep our footprint low, with our operations and the process as well. Great advice. What would you say some of the bigger challenges and opportunities in the industry that we have that we should tackle and not ignore?
Yeah, I think there's the classical challenges around permitting and interconnection and stuff like that. I think that, and there are good folks working on all those challenges. I do think we have to think through our land footprint, because the reality is we're going to consume a lot of land. So again, that goes to really thoughtful planning around, okay, let's not build it on, certain types of land that's more pristine. Use ag land that's not being used is great. There's land like that in Central California. And again, like think about like how can we do solar, we say it's sort of light on land or in a smarter, better way. And we need to do that globally because, every country, people kind of, they go, oh, there's like this project in Qatar, there's plenty of land. It's like, no, it's land constrained, right? So how we use the land, how we treat the land, I think it's really important, for the industry. And again, as we start to build probably 1 to 2 terawatts a year, I mean, it's just going to increase as a topic.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and you guys are innovating in various ways and enabling those sort of advancements to occur. With that in mind is really important, especially with you guys having such a large influence on the industry. So what do you see the role of community playing in projects or, just in general making the world a better place?
Yeah, I mean, community is really important, and in the case of our industry, which is solar power plants, the projects are built in rural areas. And the funny thing is, the people that conceptualize, design, engineer, build, finance the projects, they live in cities.
Yeah.
And they don't understand what it means to live in a rural area. I grew up in a rural area of Minnesota, so I think I have some familiarity with, sort of farming life and community and stuff like that. And so again, I think that goes to being thoughtful about how we engage with the communities. And it's really amazing, like I've done projects in lots of different countries, and whether you're in the middle of nowhere of the mountains of China or India or Korea or all these places, the community topics are the same. It's like, oh, what is this solar project? What does it mean for me? What is it, and so again, as being responsible stewards, we need to be thoughtful about the community engagement. How could we create job opportunities for local people? How can we do the project in a way that's not disrupting or minimizing the disruption of the natural landscape? How could we maybe do some agriculture, as I was mentioning? One of my favorite examples was we worked on a project in the mountains of Sichuan province, China, and it was an area of yak herding. And so we worked with the local shepherds to do yak grazing within the array, and then we hired the son of the yak herder to be the operations and maintenance manager of the project. And so the community, probably never seen a solar panel in their life, suddenly embraced it and became part of the fabric of the community.
Yeah, so you've already done in some form agrivoltaics in
Yes.
that way. Yeah, that's really neat.
You got to be careful with those antlers.
Right, yeah. You don't want goats jumping up and dancing on the
goats.
panels, right? Yeah, so good times. So when you're looking back on your legacy, what would you like to see happen as a result of your efforts in the world?
I mean, for me personally and for the company, I'd like to say that we made a difference, not sure if it's a small difference or huge difference, but somehow help move the industry forward by building tools, technology, best practices. And it's, for me, extremely rewarding. I always like to say, what an industry to be in where you can see your projects from space.
Wow, yeah.
And you can log into the CalISO website and see that on any given day, 40% of the electricity might come from solar, and it was 0% before. So, ultimately that's how we're going to measure the success of the industry is, how many terawatts can we get online. And so if I could be part of that, I'll feel like it was a successful career.
Well, you started pretty well out of the gates with the 800 megawatts and being able to see them from space. In terms of the success of involving more people and having a sort of just and equitable energy transition with more inclusivity, do you think that's possible? And if so, how?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the negative effects of fossil fuels, so pollution and climate change, they impact the most disadvantaged people in society the most, right? Rich people can fly to new ski destinations if there's no snow, and they can afford to pay more for their food. So the negative effects of climate is just on that, underprivileged members of society throughout the world. So I think the first thing is, as we get more renewables online, I think that's going to help just in general for the well-being of that part of the population. I think that job and community engagement is real important. So like how do we train folks that maybe have never done construction before or never done solar design before, and bring them into the workforce. I mean, we're going to need millions of people to build all these projects, and so as an industry we need to to train them, and I think it's a great job opportunities. And one of the things I'd like to do in the future is maybe set up like a little university for training people, because it's like that's how we can engage with these communities that need economic opportunity.
Yeah, actually, maybe we should talk about that. Bakersfield might be a good place for you guys. And we're here because of the city of Bakersfield. I'm curious from your perspective, knowing so much about the region because you do so many projects in Kern County, the Sun Power Project as an example. How do you feel Bakersfield could play a role as sort of a hub for innovation in the state and the country?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bakersfield is really one of the solar hubs in the whole world. I mean, I don't know how many gigawatts we're up to in the sort of the radius of Bakersfield, but it's really a pioneer. And Kern County has been extremely supportive of large-scale solar. So I would say to keep doing what you're doing, and in terms of what role Bakersfield could play, I mean, I think, you know, getting involved in sort of the R&D and technology development and stuff like that, I think that those kinds of things are possible. And again, California's got, you know, huge renewable ambitions, and those projects are going to be in the Central Valley, California, desert regions. So,
absolutely. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk with us and share your insights and your journey with us. Again, thanks for everything you're doing in the industry as well. Keep up the great work, like I would say to you as well. And thanks again.
All right, thanks a lot. Okay.
And thank you for joining us on Destination for Innovation. Be sure to connect, collaborate, and create with Matt, and we will see you soon.